We've made a lot of progress so far in the application and building a lot of the foundations that we're gonna need to build all the security stuff. So right now, the application doesn't really do much. As you can see, we only have this mapping, and it only goes to home. In every other URL, we'll probably throw an exception. Either we're not authorized or username not found, right? So, but we've made a lot of progress, which is good. So right now, what I want to do, I want to be able to give users a way to create new accounts. So for instance, if you're a user, you should be able to just create a new account. And then from that account, you should be able to log in and then get a token and then, continue using the app that way. So before I actually create the functionality to let someone create an account in the application, I have to worry about one thing, which is if we go to the domain and we go into the user class, you can see I have to provide the roles and the authorities to the user, right? So we have to build this functionality because this is an important part of the security aspect of it. We need to determine the roles and the authorities of the users. So let's go ahead and do that next. And then once we're done, then we'll be able to create the functionality to actually let the user create accounts. So what I want to do, I want to define what I want for the authorities, right? So if you remember from the beginning, the role is going to have a list of authorities in it. So we have to define what those authorities are in relation to our application, or in respect to our application, as in, what authorities we want to have in it and what those authorities mean. And we're also going to put certain authorities and certain rules, right? So we have to build this logic to pass in the roles and the authorities to the users when they're creating their account. So I'm going to go to the constant package, and then I'm going to create a new class, and I'm going to call it authorities because I want to define all of the authorities that I want to have in the application. So in the authorities class, what I want to do is I want to define some arrays, right? And those arrays, they're going to hold user authorities so that I can then pass those authorities to a certain role and then assign those roles to users. So I'm going to do public static final string, and that's not going to be a simple string. It's going to be a string array. And I'm going to call this user authorities, for instance, authorities. And this is going to equal an array of authorities for user. So what I want to do now, I want to define the way that I want those authorities to be, right? This is not something that's going to be generic for every application. It's really going to be based on your application and how you think of the security of your application and how you want to define it. So this approach is, I'm sure there's like a lot of companies or other people building applications, they're actually using this method, but I'm just telling you, it really comes down to the way you construct your entire security architecture. So in the user authorities, right, which is gonna hold which is gonna hold the authorities of a user, right, because it says user authorities, right? I want to give this user let's do user, and then let's do read, right? So if you remember from the beginning in the application that we built, we're actually managing users, right? So for instance, if I had, let's say like I had, I'm going to copy this. Let's say I had patient, right? I have users and I have patient in the same application, just hypothetically speaking. So I could have something like this. I could have patient read, meaning if a user has this authority, they will be able to read user information and they will be able to read patient information. Okay, so that's the notation here, and this is really just made up. I just came up with it. I've seen other people using the same logic, but this is made up. You could just have something else. You could just have something like this, like even uppercase if you want, read. That would work fine too. But I'm just telling you, this is really just an approach. It can be anything. So once we have that, I'm gonna have to define a few more. So let's do this is gonna be let's say we have an HR department in our company. Of course, all companies should have an HR department. So for the HR department, they're gonna be able to not only read user information, they will also be able to update. Okay, let's say they wanna, I don't know, update your W2 or something. Okay, I'm just thinking. So we have HR, and let's say this is manager. So manager authorities, and they can actually read. Well, I already have that. Let's just copy this. So let's say they can read and update, right? So that's that. Those are the authorities for any manager. And then let's say admin authorities. And for the admin, they're gonna have everything, and they will also be able to do update. So I'm gonna paste this again, and let's do, so they can read, they can create. Let's do create and update. Oops. Okay, so this, so users, they're gonna be able to just read, meaning when they log into the application, they can just see the information. They can't touch it, they can't update it, they can't create. And admin are gonna be able to read, create, and update. And the managers and HR, they're gonna be able to read and update. So let's create one last one for super underscore user authorities. So let's imagine this is for like a super user, like all powerful user. So they're gonna be able to read, create, update, and just copy that last one, and they will be able to delete. Oops, it's supposed to be lowercase. Delete. Okay, and I need a comma here. Okay, so this is what I want to represent as the permission. Now there's one last thing I'm thinking about now, since I'm not mixing for instance, as you can see, the super user has all the permissions of these other ones, right? I'm not saying, hey, super user will have user authorities. I'm not passing it like this. I'm actually giving this user all the permission that all the other ones already have. So because of that, let's go back to the domain real quick. So if we go to the user domain, right, you can see here, I'm actually passing in an actual array for the roles, which means I can give someone this and this and so on. I can give them as many as I want. So you can see how this is just really gonna be very redundant, because this user, which is just user read, if I give someone this, then I give them super user. So they're gonna have the read multiple times, right? So what that brings to mind is that if I give someone a user authority, that's because I want them to be a user. And if I give someone an admin authority, it's because I want them to be a user, an HR manager, or an HR person. So that means that I don't have to give them, if I want someone to be a manager, I don't have to give them these two other ones and then give him the manager, because with the manager, they're already gonna have all the permission that they need to have coming from a user, right? So that's why I'm thinking I'm not gonna need this to be an array, but I'm actually gonna just need it to be just a string, so I can just pass in the role. So let's change that real quick. So this is gonna be just a string, which is gonna represent the role, and the role is gonna have those authorities in it. Okay, so let's go down and make the changes. Make the changes here, and I'm gonna change this here as well to just be a string. Okay, it looks good. And I need to fix the getters and setters. So this is gonna be just a string. Probably gonna name it get role because it's just one. Set role, just one, and this is gonna be just one. Okay, so since I'm already giving every superior authority or above authority the same authorities as the other one. So for instance, if I had this like this, so if I said the super user authorities will have the user delete, then I would need an array here for the user because I would need to pass multiple roles to a user who, if I want this user to be a super admin. But that's not what I'm doing. I'm already giving them all the other permissions. So I don't necessarily need to give them multiple roles. I can give them just the roles that I want them to have. And then that should be enough because they already have all the permissions that they need. So I just wanted to point that out. So I think with this structure, we should be in a better shape and it's going to be cleaner, I'm thinking. So we're going to have to build this out and then pass in the information so that we can see.